Bienvenidos al Encuentro de Sindicatos Argentinos afiliados a UNI Américas. Respuestas sindicales al nuevo mundo del trabajo, organizado por los sindicatos afiliados a UNI de nuestro país. Contamos con la relevante presencia de la Secretaria General de UNI Sindicato Global, Christy Hoffman, el Presidente Mundial de UNI Sindicato Global, Rubén Cortina, el Presidente de UNI Américas, Héctor Daer, y el Jefe del Departamento de Finanzas de UNI Sindicato Global, Angelo Di Cristo. También se encuentran presentes los sindicatos argentinos afiliados a UNI Américas, el Secretario General de la Federación de Asociación de Trabajadores de la Sanidad Argentina, Carlos Hueso Campo, el Secretario General del Sindicato Argentino de Televisión, Servicios Audiovisuales Interactivos y Datos, Horacio Arrasegor, el Secretario General de la Asociación Bancaria, Sergio Palazzo, el Secretario General Unión de Trabajadores de Sociedades, Autores y Afines, Osvaldo Moreno, Secretario General de la Federación Argentina de Empleados de Comercio y Servicios, Armando Cavalieri, el Secretario General de la Federación de Empleados de Correos y Telecomunicaciones, Alberto Cejas, el Secretario General del Sindicato de las Telecomunicaciones, Osvaldo Yadarola, el Secretario General de Obreros de la Maestranza, Oscar Guillermo Rojas, el Secretario General del Sindicato de Profesionales de las Telecomunicaciones, Ricardo Avigliano, el Secretario General de la Federación Única de Viajantes de la Argentina, Luis Cejas, el Secretario General de la Asociación Argentina de Trabajadores de las Comunicaciones, Juan Antonio Palacios, el Secretario General del Sindicato Único de Trabajadores de Espectáculo Público, Miguel Ángel Paniagua, el Secretario General de la Federación de Obreros y Empleados de la Industria del Papel, Cartón y Químicos, José Ramón Luque, el Secretario General del Sindicato Argentino de Locutores y Comunicadores, Sergio Hoffman, el Secretario General de la Asociación de Profesionales Universitarios del Agua y la Energía Eléctrica, Jorge Arias, el Secretario General de la Asociación de Supervisores Mineros, Metalúrgicos y Mecánicos de la República Argentina, Luis Alberto García Ortiz, el Secretario General de la Federación de Obreros, Especialistas y Empleados de los Servicios e Industrias de las Telecomunicaciones de la República Argentina, Daniel Rodríguez, el Secretario General de la Federación Argentina de Agentes de Propaganda Médica, Salvador Aguiano, y el Secretario General del Sindicato de Trabajadores de Juegos de Azar, Mariano Seis Prieto. Agradecemos también, por supuesto, la participación de la Fundación Friedrich Ebert y la de todos los compañeros y compañeras presentes. Ahora, para dar inicio a la jornada, veremos un video que aborda el impacto de las tecnologías en el mundo del trabajo y cómo esto requiere de nuevas estrategias para proteger los derechos de los trabajadores conquistados hasta el día de hoy.
Con el avance de la tecnología, nuestras vidas están cambiando. Consumimos sin salir de nuestras casas, de manera rápida y segura, aunque no para todos. Tenemos mayor facilidad para buscar una información mirar películas o series en cualquier momento, pero eso no significa que el acceso a la cultura o al conocimiento se haya democratizado. Encontramos nuevas formas de expresarnos y de organizarnos, pero cada vez tenemos sociedades menos inclusivas y más desiguales. Tenemos nuevas formas de relacionarnos. Podemos tener más conversaciones con más personas, de manera más fácil, pero son pocos los momentos en los que realmente nos encontramos. Tenemos nuevas herramientas de trabajo que facilitan muchos procesos, pero trabajamos de manera cada vez más aislada, automatizada. Y en los próximos años veremos desaparecer muchas de las profesiones y oficios que hoy son comunes. Las tecnologías digitales están marcando el camino más rápido de lo que podemos pensar, decidir o actuar. Los cambios son vertiginosos, pero la tendencia sigue siendo la misma. ¿Cómo organizar entonces a los trabajadores cuyas condiciones de trabajo, sueldo y protección social son individualizadas? ¿Cómo acompañar a los trabajadores para que se incorporen a un mundo en constante movimiento? ¿Cómo defender derechos que se basan en condiciones que hoy se están transformando? El capitalismo ya se reinventó. ¿Cómo nos vamos a reinventar nosotros?
Nos dirigirá la palabra el presidente de UNI Américas, el compañero Héctor Daer, quien dejará inaugurado oficialmente el encuentro.
Buen día, compañeras, compañeros. Primero que nada, pedirles las disculpas del caso por la demora y algunas incomodidades que estamos sufriendo, producto de que quedamos desbordados. Decirles que a mediados del año pasado, cuando nos juntamos los secretarios generales de los sindicatos que conformamos UNI a nivel global en la Argentina, tuvimos la idea de cambiar la mirada de los eventos que se generan habitualmente y que se multiplican permanentemente por muchos lados. Esa mirada que tiene que ver con el análisis sociológico, antropológico y de la academia sobre el avance de las tecnologías, el trabajo del futuro y el futuro del trabajo. En base a eso, quisimos reencontrarnos entre nosotros y plantear las experiencias que tenemos cada uno de nosotros como organizaciones sindicales y que llevamos adelante para enfrentar toda esta aparición de tecnología, de inteligencia artificial y por supuesto lo que es el gran avance que genera este traslado de importantes ganancias de un sector a otro, que es este mecanismo de precarización del trabajo a través de la individualización del empleo. Y quisimos hacer esto, quisimos contar las experiencias, y cuando se lo comentamos a la compañera Christy, a quien le agradecemos muchísimo que hoy esté acá. Originalmente venía a una reunión del Consejo Directivo de UNI Américas que va a ser el día de mañana en Montevideo, y adelantó su venida al día de ayer para estar hoy con todos nosotros y darnos también el análisis que lo tiene muy profundizado sobre el documento que emitió la Organización Internacional del Trabajo precisamente sobre el avance de las tecnologías y el futuro del trabajo. Así que, Christy, te agradecemos enormemente todos los trabajadores y los sindicatos afiliados sabemos del esfuerzo. Y esto también, en ese momento cuando lo conversamos, también quisimos darle otro enfoque, que no sea una charla con 20 o 30 dirigentes, sino que los dirigentes que tenemos que sumar conocimiento sobre este tipo de cuestiones se multiplica por cientos en cada una de nuestras organizaciones sindicales. Y a partir de ahí tomamos la decisión también de cambiar el mecanismo de hacer una reunión pequeña a hacer una reunión masiva. Por supuesto genera mucho esfuerzo, por supuesto genera esto que nos pasa, que nos ha desbordado, pero creemos que es la utilización eficiente de todos los esfuerzos que hacen los sindicatos para que esto tenga un sentido masivo y que esto lo podamos apreciar todos. Así que con estas palabras simplemente doy abierta esta jornada, esperando que sea lo más útil para recoger experiencias y poder desarrollarlas en cada una de nuestras organizaciones sindicales. Gracias.
A continuación damos inicio al primer módulo de este encuentro, donde la Secretaria General de UNI Sindicato Global, la compañera Christy Hoffman, compartirá su análisis sobre el documento emitido por la OIT, Trabajar para un futuro más prometedor. Para poder escuchar la traducción simultánea, les pedimos que se coloquen los auriculares y seleccionen el canal número 1. Este bloque será presentado por Rubén Cortina, Presidente Mundial de la organización.
Buen día, compañeras, compañeros. Realmente me quedé gratamente sorprendido cuando me aproximaba aquí al teatro y veía las colas de compañeros anotándose y que estemos desbordados. Estar desbordados está bueno. Lo que no tenemos que dejar es que nos desborden con esta cuestión de las tecnologías para que nos adaptemos, que significa flexibilizar y un montón de cosas más que ya las vamos a ir viendo a lo largo de la jornada. Para mí es un gusto enorme presentarles a quien acompaño y nos acompañamos mutuamente desde Liverpool, desde el Congreso de Liverpool, que es nuestra amiga y compañera Christy Hoffman, a quien tengo el orgullo y el honor de conocer hace mucho tiempo y con quien hemos compartido, yo como el anterior presidente de UNI Américas y ella como secretaria general adjunta durante bastante tiempo también, y agradecerle también que haya podido llegar hasta estas latitudes que a mí me gusta que vengan para que sepan lo que significa cuando nosotros tenemos que ir, porque es importante ver el tema de las distancias y las realidades, así que le agradecemos enormemente y ella está en el corazón de los debates sobre este tema en la Organización Internacional del Trabajo. Por lo tanto, lo único que me queda por decirles es que saquemos provecho de su análisis y de sus conceptos sobre este tema y seguiremos conversando entonces después de su presentación. Nada más y muchas gracias.
Buen día, compañeras y compañeros. You must put the headsets on, I'm sorry. I want to thank all of you, so many in the room. How great is this? All of you for being here today. And let me thank the unions, our union affiliates from Argentina, for the invitation to join you. And it's just such an honor to be with this crowd. Now we have among us today some what we call uni rock stars. Rubén Cortina from Países is our UNI Global President. Thank you, Rubén. Héctor Daer, he is the President of UNI Américas, one of our most dynamic and active and powerful regions in UNI Global Union. Thank you, Héctor, for your hospitality today. Now, the invitation to join you was extended by all of the Argentinian affiliates, but I want to also give special recognition to FATSA and its president, Carlos Westo Campo, for making so many of these arrangements. This is a very impressive venue. It's complicated. I appreciate the work of FATSA to help to make it happen. Now, we're here to talk about the future world of work, but some of us also now call it the new world of work, because we are living already in a world of digital technology right now, and all workers everywhere are facing some key questions. How do we harness the power of technology so that we can all share in the progress? How do we make sure that workers are not left behind? And independent of technology, on the side, what changes do we need to make in the world of work today, in the 21st century? So I'm going to share with you a few points from my perspective, and then we'll talk about the report from the ILO, which was just recently issued on this topic. And lastly, we come back to the question, what should trade unions be doing? And to secure the future for working people, and just a little overview of what unions are doing around the world, but also you're going to share your ideas with me so that I can take these back and we share them across the world with all of the unions. So I look forward to hearing from you. So let's first talk about a snapshot of where things stand for the world's workers. We live in a very polarized world, where income and wealth are concentrated at the very top. So the rich keep getting richer. And let me say that this year it is announced that 26 people own half of the world's wealth. Last year it was 43, and it dropped to 26. Next year, maybe 5. Who knows? This is not a good scenario. Our labor share, what workers get in the global pie, continues to go down. We are getting a smaller and smaller share. Wages, used to go up when the productivity went up. The graph was a very straight line, but today that no longer happens. We're not getting our share. And also this question of flat wages. Now you in Argentina, you struggle to keep up with inflation because of the devaluation of your currency. And that's a very big problem that you face. But you also have to realize that there are others in the world without that problem, and still their wages are flat. In Western Europe, we think about Western Europe as a very place with strong unions and good social protection, but still in 2017, no wage increase for the region. No real wage increase. Wages were flat. And even Germany, which is maybe a place we think of very strong unions, half of the German population is worse off than 15 years ago. So this is a universal problem. And one reason why the labor share is declining is because of the reduction in coverage of collective bargaining. The experts, I am not an expert, but I know what the experts say, that half of the reason for the decline is because collective bargaining, the half of the reason of the decline in our labor share is because of collective bargaining shrinking. So we are not in a good place when it comes to getting our fair share. Many people are getting fed up with this. Are you fed up? Yes. Many people are getting fed up with this. Many people are turning to nationalism, to white right-wing extremism. We're trade unions. We don't want that to happen. We want to say we're fed up and we're going to do something about it. Because into this broken labor relations model, attacks on collective bargaining, along comes technological change. And many people call this the fourth industrial revolution, or Industry 4.0. Now every uni sector is covered by this fourth industrial revolution, whether we're talking about cleaning or film production, postal services, retail services, care, IT, no matter what, we have a lot of impact across all of our sectors. Now, before I move on, there's some other statistics on the screen that come from the ILO report, and many of these were already shown in the video that you just saw. But just to look again in the environment in which we operate, 300 million people still living in severe poverty, less than $2 a day. That's severe poverty. That's 300 million people. And it's also, the report of the ILO touches on many of the points that I've just raised. 36% of people in the world are working more than 48 hours a week. High. The time for those who work is going up for many and down for others. So, next slide, please. So, one of the questions that we've been told, and across all, many economies, is that the robots are coming to take our jobs. We don't even know whether there will be work in the future. There's been a lot of media hype about this, and in US, in Europe, in Asia, also Argentina, the scary idea. Well, the truth is that only 5% of jobs could be replaced using current technology, and maybe 10% in the future. So actually, the prediction is that jobs will increase. I do believe this fear of robots is a big kind of corporate distraction from the key issues. How many of you have the fear that your job could be replaced by a robot? I wait for the translation. Nobody? Okay, well that's really good. That's really good. Very smart people in the room. Because now many economists are writing to say that was a big exaggeration. They want us to be afraid. And we shouldn't accept the nightmare scenario that we won't have work in the future. Yes, it's true that maybe about 60% of jobs will have some changes because of technology, but this will happen probably in a more gradual manner than what has been told to us. Even if 5 to 10% of jobs are eliminated, that's still a lot of people, so we can't leave them behind, but let's come back and talk about that in a little bit. I think the question is, what kind of work will be created, and what kind of control is made possible by digital technology? And the real problem is that many of the jobs which have been created over the past 10 years have been low-paid or very insecure work. And what we see is the jobs that are being created are not permanent employment, but instead maybe they are contract work or agency work or part-time work. The contractors and the agency workers are 1 or 2 steps removed from the company that earns the profit. It's less secure, it's less well paid, and you see some facts up there from the United States. It's typical for most of the world, so this is why I use this, which is 94% of all the jobs created in the past 10 years are insecure. Contract work, part-time work, or temporary. 94%, and even in Spain last year, 90% of all the new jobs were short-term contracts. So those are big, big numbers. When you look at Google, one of the richest companies in the world, half the people who work in their headquarters, these are engineers, these are software designers. I think it's about 16,000 of them. Do they work for Google? No. They work for a temporary agency based in Switzerland called Adecco. And what do they get paid? The same as the other Google engineers? No. So this is a big problem that we see in the world. Now, what are the predictions? The predictions are from the World Economic Forum. They make a lot of predictions. I don't believe that all of their predictions are true because we can shape the future we want. We don't need to listen to these numbers. But they say half of companies say they're going to reduce their full-time workforce by 2022. That doesn't mean they won't have jobs. It just means it won't be the jobs we want. And they also say that, that more than 50% of the workers in the US, again, I'm just using the US as an example, will be freelance in 8 years. Imagine that, more than 50% freelance. I don't believe that. I think we're going to change that future, but I think it's important to know, again, this is one of the more scarier. When we talk about scarier, I find this to be more scary, that we'll all be in some kind of gig relationship or freelance. Now they want us to think this is all because of technology, that we have no choice. It's an industry 4.0, we must go along with the technology. But actually, it's not inevitable. Digitalization makes this stuff easier. It enables that the collection of data, which makes it possible to outsource work a little more easily. It makes it possible to use self-employed a little bit more easily, because you can still monitor what they're doing because of all the data. But it's not inevitable. It's a political choice, driven by greed. It's driven by a business model that gives very little value to the conditions for workers. And in many countries, the labor institutions are so weak that anything goes. Now, I do want to recognize you have stronger labor institutions in Argentina than what many countries have. And you may think they're not good enough, and I don't disagree with that. We always want to fight for more. But you do have institutions, and so it is about harnessing those institutions and using that power to change this reality. And again, collective bargaining has been under attack in many, many countries around the world. It's battered and bruised, and you do have a strong collective bargaining model here. It's also under attack, and these are one of the key pillars of having a just future. Because the model we have now, sort of winner take all, it's not sustainable. If we want a world with social cohesion, peace, and democracy, again, it feeds into this very right-wing and extremist and authoritarian agenda that threatens our institutions. It's not the future we want. If Industry 4.0 is going to offer something new, something other than this race to the bottom, we have to win a model that secures innovation, digital innovation. We are not against technology and good jobs. There is nothing inconsistent with having both, and that's the reality that we need to accept and not be motivated by fear of the future. So, with all of that, I want to come back. This is supposed to be my main topic of the day, is this beautiful report that's just come out. The ILO this year, it's an organization, well, many of you may not know so much about the ILO. When I was a shop steward, I didn't know anything about the ILO. I can tell you that. And it's really an organization that was created 100 years ago today, of this year, in 1919, of workers, governments, and employers to try to come up with agreements, and they have made many agreements over the years about the rights and conditions of workers. So it's an important year for the ILO, centenary, 100 years. Let's look at where have we come from, where are we going, and because of so much new technology and the changes in the future of work, the ILO convened a special commission, and actually our former General Secretary of UNI was on that commission. It was chaired by the Prime Minister of South Africa and the Prime Minister of Sweden, a very high-level commission, and they issued this report called Work for a Brighter Future. Now, looking back 100 years ago, world leaders came together after wars, social upheaval, and they adopted a set of principles for what came to be known as the social contract. I think that's also a little bit jargon. I think when I was a shop steward, I wouldn't understand what a social contract was, but it's really, you know, that we're all in this together, and that we don't have a future unless there's social progress for everybody. So what is the key message of the ILO report? And that is, we have to revitalize our social contract, reinvigorate and modernize our social contract so that it is fit for the 21st century. And the unions are calling this the social contract 4.0. So there's three big themes. There's three big parts in that social contract. We have to increase investment in people. We have to increase investment in the institutions of work. And we need to increase investment in decent and sustainable work. Now that sounds a little bit like, you know, just good slogans. So let me take it a little bit deeper. And what does that mean? So first of all, investing in people. This is really, these are key, this is what we're all about, right? We want investment in workers and in people. And the first thing they came up with is that everybody, every person should have an entitlement, a right, not just nice to have, a right to lifelong learning. Because we have to realize that technology forces us to adapt. We may not have the same job for 30 years. We are going to be constantly needing to learn new skills. So lifelong learning is a big recommendation from this report. The second is we need institutions that support people through their transitions, whether it's young people entering the labor market, old people on their way out, and I mean older people, never say old, on their way out, or people in the middle whose jobs aren't eliminated. What is the transition for them? Active labor markets. Third is a transformative agenda for gender equality. The gender pay gap is 20%. What are concrete steps to take to narrow this gender gap, including, I would add, a big emphasis on the investment in care. And lastly, universal social protection. We all in this room work in a formal relationship, a formal employment, I'm assuming, and have social protection, health care, protection in old age, protection in the event of unemployment, but a very large percentage of the world does not have that. So we need to make this a much bigger priority in the future, social protection for everyone. Now the other issue of people is what about the institutions of work? And again, this is where some key recommendations from the ILO come out. First of all, let me say that the premise of the whole report is that social dialogue is a good thing. It's the only way we move forward for a fair future. And so promoting social dialogue is a big emphasis of the report. You see up there, universal guarantee, a universal labor guarantee. What is that? What is that? That's something really new coming out of this commission, and you know, already the employers at the ILO have said we don't want that, but it is a commission recommendation. And that is that no matter if someone is in formal employment or an informal relationship, meaning so-called self-employed, the millions of self-employed, or temporary agency work, no matter what kind of contract you have, if you're a worker, you should have a guarantee of a living minimum wage, social protection, and right to organize. Because right now, many so-called independent workers or self-employed do not have the right to organize. They do not have access to the fundamental rights. And it's a little bit complicated. Who are they going to bargain with, and so on. Not all the details are worked out, but this is about lifting up the informal economy. And I would add, as a trade unionist, that it's not only about lifting up the informal economy. We need to strengthen the employment relationship so that more people are in the formal economy. I don't think it's enough to lift up the informal. I want to strengthen the idea that you have employers, because I don't think we run away from that. I think that's a bedrock principle for all of us, that employers should be responsible. So, but they go together. If you lift up the informal, there's less incentive for the employers to try to dodge out of their responsibilities. And the other thing about the institutions of work is expanding time sovereignty. What does that mean, time sovereignty? Partly it's about giving workers more control about how much they work and more respect for their work-life balance. Because if you are on call and you have to be available for work, but you don't know what your schedule is going to be, you don't have control over your time. If you are forced to work 60 hours of overtime every week, you don't have control over your time. If you need more time off to care for young people, your children, or your parents, you don't have control over your time. This is a bigger question about moving forward into the future. How do we give more time sovereignty? Again, should be negotiated with employers, but it's a big space for unions to put focus. And lastly, and most important, not lastly, but what really important is this question of strengthening collective bargaining institutions. For anyone who operates in a country where these institutions are under attack, this is a very important point coming out of this report. We need to strengthen our collective institutions, not become more polarized and divided. And then this question about workers and managers negotiating the design of work. Even the managers the companies I've talked to in the World Economic Forum, they made it very clear that they have a hard time. One of the reasons that technology is maybe coming more slowly than what people predicted is that you need to do it together with workers. You can't just impose this on people. The workers have to be part of the process to design the use of technology. This needs to be done collectively, not imposed. And many employers, I'm listening into their conversations in so many of the panels I went to, and they said, we can't do this alone. We have to do this together with workers. That's a key takeaway from the ILO report. And then the last piece from the ILO report, I don't have a slide about it, but the last piece is on decent work, and really it is about telling businesses that they need to invest in line with supporting the Sustainable Development Goals, and businesses have to shift their priorities away from only focus on short-term earnings and profits. So, I'm talking a lot, I'm taking a drink. What's the next phase for unions? Because we have this beautiful report, some things in it we might wish were a little different, but overall it supports our agenda for a fair future. What do we need to do? What's the next steps? There's a lot to digest, and I would say winning these recommendations will not come easily. These are recommendations, and the first thing that we have to do is say to our government, we want you to support the recommendations on the future of work. The employers have already said, we're not supporting the universal labor guarantee. It's a very big demand. Lifting up the informal economy has to be front and center within our work, because even if you have 100% right to bargain for everybody in the formal economy, if that becomes a shrinking part of economic life, your power is going down. Lifelong learning, again, a very big demand. It's central to the dignity of workers. It provides a key role for unions. We're going to have to fight for that. And then beyond the report, we all have to campaign to change the rules so we limit the expansion of this insecure economy, whether that means limitations on the use of agency employment, requirements for equal pay for everyone, or even the right to bargain for the self-employed. I don't agree that a majority of workers in the US or any other country should have no employer, no right to social protection, no coverage by laws which protect workers from discrimination, no right to bargain. That is not right. We can never accept that reality. So our message to businesses and to governments is work with us to create a more fair society so we can move forward jointly to tackle the critical issues we face. Recognize that strong, sectoral, collective bargaining it's a mechanism for justice, and let's seize the moment created by new technology to reinvent, reinvigorate, restore our social contract. No, leave there. No, it's good. Thank you. Now, we can't leave all of this to regulation. Some unions, and probably yours, are in a better position to change the rules, but there's also a key role for negotiations. But that's what we're going to talk about later today. You're going to tell me what you're doing, but I just wanted to give you a snapshot of some of the places where unions now are negotiating around the impact of technology. And I think that when I say we should use to business people, we're going to collectively bargain about these issues in the future. Like, really? I thought unions were kind of out of date. Isn't that from the past? No, actually, we are more important now than ever. We have to use our power at the bargaining table to shape the rules in the future. And it's no surprise that unions are already doing that, because you tell me who else is going to negotiate with the employers over monitoring and surveillance? Our unions are doing that in the call center industry every day. Who else is going to negotiate minimum hours and scheduling for workers in retail? And again, this is a big issue for the retail unions across the world. One of our affiliates just fought very hard to get a minimum 12-hour-a-week agreement with H&M. Platform workers, I know you're looking at that issue a lot. Our union in the Netherlands just won a victory to clarify that the Deliveroo drivers are indeed employees. And the same thing has happened with Uber drivers in the UK and elsewhere. In Denmark, our cleaning union just signed a first ever platform agreement for platform cleaners. Now, it's not perfect, but it's a first step, and I think that many other unions are looking at that. When we talk about inequality and 26 people owning half the world's wealth, there's a lot of things we need to do, including fair taxation, changing the rules, but at the same time, there is no strategy. There is no strategy to reduce income inequality that does not include empowering workers and strengthening collective bargaining. So here are some of the ways that our unions are already negotiating, and one is negotiating around the implementation of new technology. How can workers be involved in that process? And second, for places where the jobs are going to disappear, and here I think most likely some of that is finance, where we see the hardest fight, we have to insist on keeping people at work while we find pathways for transition, which might include upskilling, reskilling. There's a lot of things on the menu, but I think the finance sector of uni is further ahead. When you look at health and safety, what about the postal workers who used to carry letters and now they're carrying packages? How can we are negotiating around that issue? And monitoring the stress of having, of your employer know what you're doing every minute. This comes across in a lot of our sectors. This causes stress. We see this in Amazon. We have to negotiate and organize around the issue of monitoring of workers. And lastly, time sovereignty. What about the workers who are on call, for example, in care? This is a big topic, and the digital technology makes it more easy for the employers to say, we know we only need you for 3 hours on Tuesday and 2 hours on Thursday. Now, the other big area for negotiations, and this is where I think the Argentinian unions are maybe way ahead of the rest of the world, is around training, upskilling, training. How are we going to implement this entitlement to lifelong learning? Where's our role? This is a big part of just transition. There's this big role for unions time off for training. Workers need to be able to have the time off from their regular job, and employer-funded but union-delivered training programs. This is a big topic for bargaining. We also have to demand to bargain over all the data that's collected on us at work. How are we using it? How is the employer storing it? Do they sell it? Surveillance, I've mentioned that before. We should be bargaining around surveillance, Teleperformance, and Santander, and most of all, Amazon. I'm just using 3 examples of big companies which do constant monitoring of their workers. And then those who create the technology, like those Google workers, they want to bargain over how the technology is used, whether it's used to make the world a better place or for unethical purposes. And there was a big strike of Google workers not so long ago, and they were also striking because they didn't want their technology to be used to deport workers from the US and some facial recognition. Their view is, if we're making this technology, we want to be part of the decision on how it's going to be used and whether it's going to be used for drone strikes in military hardware or not. And I think that's, we don't necessarily represent those workers. We don't represent those workers. They're not part of UNI right now, but we want to in the future, and this is going to be on the future horizon. So we have a lot of work to do. I've just thrown a lot of ideas at you. That's part of the package of this issue, is that there's so many dimensions. And we at UNI want to be part of this process of sharing strategies across borders, across employers, so that we can build our power through common action together. And that's one of the brilliant purposes of this meeting, is you're feeding into me. Hopefully I'm leaving you with some good ideas. Because, brothers and sisters, the point is we should not face the future with fear, but with determination. The world is a much richer place than it was 20 years ago, and it's our turn to share in some of those gains. This is a moment. We need technology to serve the interests of the many, not the few. And the truth is that unions and what you do every day representing workers, your role is more important now than ever. So let's take this moment and make it happen. Thank you.